going out as a two-man fire team into one of the most contested areas in the Russia-Ukraine conflict sounds terrifying. But in this video from the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, I'm going to break down how they use individual movement techniques and sound principles of combat to stay safe and accomplish their mission in this incredibly dangerous spot. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get into it. This is CivDiv. I'm actually gonna throw the link in the chat in case you guys want to take it out. You should definitely subscribe to him. He has a lot of videos, and if you want, he actually puts the PayPal of a lot of the people here that do it. You can also become a member of the CivDiv channel. You can see it. I'm actually a member at the highest level because obviously his content is great, and he's out there helping to train Ukrainian troops. And again, I'm a neutral party, but I appreciate his content. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, you want to go in?
Okay. All right, so this is the Donbas front line, March of 2023. So this is only a couple weeks old. So for context, I strongly suspect that this is taking place. Let's see if we can back the timeline up enough to take us back through time and select on the calendar when we think this was. All right, so this was March. So let's just do mid-March, okay, and see what the map looked like then. Oh, okay, didn't seem to want to let us. So let's try again. I have faith, guys, then we can see the March map. There we go. Okay, here's what the map looked like in March. All right, so you could see this was when the Russian forces had been held somewhat on the Bakhmutka and hadn't yet pushed into the city center. So looks like they were pushing also from the north here. So let's all right, with this context up, let's keep going. Okay, so you hear that cycling, da-da-da, da-da-da. That is like actually a fairly well-trained machine gunner engaging in some like suppressive fire. So that's pretty good because what you don't want to do is go, gosh, it's been a while. If anyone wants to help me out, there's cyclic. Let me just look it up. There's 3 terms for types of machine gun fire that are like sustained, cyclic, and something else, right? Sustained, cyclic, and what's the third one? Rate of fire. Sustained, cyclic, and rapid. That's it. So cyclic is the ability of the weapon system to continuously put out that fire non-stop. Then you have the ability of the fire to engage in like high volume suppression. And that's that da-da-da. And then rapid is just da-da-da. That's like an emergency, right? In a real bad spot. That's when you can just throw all the rounds in the rifle, all the rounds in the machine gun at your problem. Okay, so what I want to point out, we've also seen in this conflict, is that Ukraine actually has a very standardized process for friend and foe identification. So right now they're in blue, but I've noticed that either entire like brigades or entire fronts will change the color they use to identify friendly forces. And that's really interesting to me because it says that one, it's like a basic form of almost like ComSec, because it prevents Russian forces from trying to do deception and they put blue tape on their uniforms and try to pass by Ukrainian formations. It's a little harder when it's always changing. So this is wild to me because they are extremely close to the front line and they are 2 dudes. I can tell you that while they're not on the front lines, I understand, and this isn't a counterinsurgency fight. In the US, we would almost never for any reason, leave 2 soldiers alone in an out of eyesight of other soldiers. Even on a forward operating base, other than being in the bathroom, you are almost never alone like these guys are alone. So all of this stuff is going to get demonetized, but this one won't. This one won't. This is just, there's no combat, but I just want to point out. So you notice, again, these guys are really well trained because look how instinctively, no commands needed, they're already staggered on opposite sides of the road. And again, the reason is partially that if someone is like looking down the road with, say, a rifle or a machine gun, right? If you're back to front, one trigger pull can take out 2 people. It's also good to stagger because of the risk of mines, but we've seen Ukrainian troops often go single file. And I think they do that when the risk of mines is higher than the risk of small arms fire. And so your TTPs, your tactics, techniques, and procedures reflect the actual environment that you're in, and sometimes the micro environment that you're in. So for example, when I was in Afghanistan, I saw no record of, not just during our deployment, but during the preceding 3 years, there had never been a mortar attack in our east of Jbad City and south of Highway 1, which was our AO. Never saw any evidence that it happened. It just wasn't the insurgents' move. They did a lot of IEDs. They would do occasional small arms fire. And so that meant that if we were in a secured, cleared compound, that we could get security on the walls and 360 degrees, and we were there for a couple hours, I would have the soldiers downgrade their gear. So they could take the helmets off, take off some of them could take off body armor. Again, as long as the majority were pulling security, because the risk was low. Again, they're behind walls and there's 6 to 8 soldiers, guarding the 4 corners. And when I would have units from other sectors in our AO, they would look at us like we were crazy. But I would explain to them, I'd be like, listen, you're in an AO where mortars are a routine occurrence. They're not here. This just isn't a risk. So we have to change our TTPs to reflect the actual risk on the ground, not a hypothetical risk not like a fantastical risk. It's not like a fantastical risk to say that a mortar strike will happen. It's just way less likely. Yeah, some of the shots sounded a little close, so it looks like they're getting to cover.
You heard the shoo shoo?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was for us.
Okay, this I think is crazy, actually. He says, my friend and a foreigner from a different unit. It sounds like a Kiwi. I believe he is a foreign volunteer who was later killed in Bakhmut. I think he was a former member of their version of the SAS, but a very highly skilled soldier. So they obviously have decided to support the Ukrainians who are conducting an assault. And it's interesting because they weren't tasked to take part in it. So they take the initiative, push up, and help with any CASEVAC or call for backup on the radio. So they become basically a radio relay and a casualty collection point. I'm not in Ukraine, right? So I don't know if this is normal or not. For me, at a strategic level, if you have a unit in reserve, you want that unit to stay in reserve. And having reserve elements on standby is an important job. In the US, we called it the QRF. And the QRF would be deliberately in a state of very high levels of readiness. And they were the on-call. Think of them as the on-call surgeon, right? You get something crazy, your hospital calls in the surgeon who is on call. You know for sure that he or she is awake, they're answering their phone, they're not going to be drunk or at the club, and they'll drive in when you need them to address an emergency. And that's often what you will do even in more conventional warfare like this. You'll have a reserve element. They're deliberately not given other tasks so that they are available to be tagged at a moment's notice. So when you have units, guys like this, like just taken off by themselves to do their own thing, it diminishes the effectiveness of your reserve element. Fascinating to see trash collection long since abandoned, but people still throwing out their trash. I'm gonna see if I can pause it and get a look at the gear. Yeah, this is a recipe for disaster, right? Because remember, those Ukrainians in this fight, they're also in a fight for their lives. And so, yeah, they have the blue tape, but when you see someone approaching from 200 or 300 meters out, in your adrenaline enhanced state, there's a good chance that you're going to sit there and go, oh my God, the Russians have us surrounded. Your worst fear, right, is realized. And so you're going to turn and engage those people approaching, especially if you're not already in contact with them, if you haven't been told to expect them, right? Maybe they've radioed the squad leader, but the squad leader was like, I don't want to bother the machine gunner telling him that these guys are coming up. You never know. And so that's why you want to take your time with this sort of thing.
We'll try and get underneath that. See that blue building?
The blue structure?
Yeah, we'll try and get under that.
Gotcha.
So it is. I'll take the first pound.
Yeah, this is classic. And that's a good leadership, right? You notice how he came up with a plan. He didn't really suggest it, but he articulated it clearly. He didn't come off as being forceful, but he was just like, we'll go to that blue building there for cover. I'll take the first bound. That's good. Okay, it would be preferable to let your buddies set and get cover for you before you start taking off, but... All right, this dude is looking pretty geared. You notice he's got a, let's see if we can do it. This looks like one of those 40 mic grenade launchers, right? He's got his, I can't tell if they're active ear protection or just ear pro. He's obviously got his double stack of mags plus 40 mics, got his Ukrainian military patch there. Just all around, this dude looks like he's got a lot of gear, a lot of nice gear. He's even got some to break up his outline, these leaves. And you're like, man, this dude's gear looks nice. Yeah. Yeah, he probably takes good care of it. Here's one of the things you don't think about when you recover from an injury is that combat, shocker, is a highly physical task. And it's also like a unique physical task, right? Conducting a combat patrol is physically draining in a way that like ruck marching and running are only like analogs. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever done track or anything like that, but it's if you're a 400 meter runner and you run the 800 meter, it's like you've never run. You sometimes feel you're like, I've never run in my life. And or if you've run a marathon and then you go bike, I'll do a really long bike ride. You're like, wow, running a marathon like helps a little, but it's not the same. Doing combat patrolling is also not the same. And because we see physically, right? This is a really physically very different. You have a ton of gear all over your body. Its weight shifts a little bit as you walk. And you have to sometimes walk, sometimes jog, sometimes sprint. And it just happens at random intervals at random times. It's one of the reasons that special ops guys loved CrossFit when it first came out, because CrossFit workouts were structured in a way that was unpredictable and would involve steady state cardio, random spikes in effort. And you'll see, right? They also have to squat, bend, get down, stand up, all with this tremendous amount of rate. And remember, The cameraman was recovering from a neck injury. So this dude spent a good chunk of time in a hospital healing up. So he's probably lost a lot of that stamina for combat actions. Yeah, another good point. It's not over steady terrain. Like a ruck march will be over steady terrain, but this isn't.
We'll go for another bound.
When do you want me to start running?
Oh, just when I get there. I'll head over that way.
When you're there, I start running?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I might even try into the gap there and come in.
Oh, you want to go in and across the field?
Yeah, if I can see anything going on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you notice how literally this is like a micro version of what we call the TLPs, or the troop leading procedures, right? The way the military makes a plan. You notice they get to the location. He's scouting it out. He's literally looking all where he wants to go. They are and then they come up with a plan. They iterate on it, and then they execute the plan. So you have an idea, you do a reconnaissance, you formulate a plan, you execute. It's like a 3-step version of the team lead version, the team-sized version of military planning. But that's not fundamentally different than what you would see a brigade do. A brigade is also going to get a mission. They're going to do as much reconnaissance and intelligence preparation of the battlefield as they can. They're going to iterate some planning, and then they're going to make a decision and they're going to execute on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you notice the terrain is uneven. It's just a unique physical demand. I don't know how else to tell you. Also a scary feeling, right? Just imagine his buddy's out of sight, out of earshot, and he is totally and utterly alone. All alone in a combat zone, as the cadence used to say.
Got up.
I'll take the next bounce to that blue building.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that CivDiv uses the word love to describe this feeling. And I think it's true. I think if you've never been in combat, you won't realize that there is a type of love that you experience for your soldiers. It's a little bit weird, but like towards the end of my deployment, I would actually get like nightmares that something would happen to my soldiers. And it was weird. It was what made it, a bunch of things made it weird, but mostly it's like, it wasn't about me coming home. It was about my ability to protect them. And yeah, the only word I can think to describe that sort of affection is indeed love, right? This dude is exhausted. That sounded like MLRS. That was crazy. All right. Okay, so I want to try see if I can triangulate where exactly this is taking place, because I've seen a fair amount of this, and we know that this is broadly where it's going to be. But let's see. I'm going to pull up actually the satellite layer here and see if we can tease out anything more. I actually think it's in the north here because, as you guys can see, this center part of the city is, one, very destroyed, two, at this time held by the Bakhmutka. But also, if there's MLRS, there's a decent amount of evidence that actually the Russian VDV was using MLRS and continues to use their thermobaric rocket systems. And they were the ones responsible for this northern area here. Plus, you can see it's not quite it's like an exurban environment. A lot of open spaces where there were never buildings, low-rise buildings. So I really am inclined to say that it's probably somewhere in this area here. I could be wrong, but that's what it makes me think of. And we know that at that time, again, this is the 15th of March, that the VDV was pushing in this region. You can, literally see it marked there.
Here.
See the corner of the building?
Yeah.
You want to jump in there?
Yeah.
And we'll just wait out for these guys. So what's happening? I don't know where the fuck they are. So. Go jump in the now, bro. I'm gonna really look around.
Are you want me to go first?
Yeah, bro. Oh.
Okay. The green entrance?
See the corner of that building? How it's opened up?
Yeah, you want the green entrance or?
Yeah, bro. No, just inside that corner. See the corner of the building? There's a hole in it. You jump in there. We'll get from there.
All right. Good to go?
Yeah, bro. Go.
Running.
Yeah, if you ever want to see what I'm talking about, just try it, man. If you ever have a weighted vest and like a bike helmet and just stuff a backpack with a bunch of books, and then you got to carry, if you have an airsoft rifle or something, because carrying a rifle is not an even experience, right? You don't get to use your arms to pump. It's just different, man. It's different. Your stride is so inefficient. It's shortened. And again, if I was to go outside, like I could haul ass around that corner and cover these distances. But if I was all geared up, I wouldn't be moving any faster than this dude. He was like, I have no idea if this is where you were talking about, but I'm here. So you notice that one, he has a flashlight. Two, they both have complete gloves, which in this environment, man, gloves are exactly what you want. There's so much rust. There's so much debris, right? Uncollected garbage that just one cut on your hands could give you tetanus or an infection, which is a really silly but completely possible reason for you to not be on the front lines, right? You might need to go back for 3-4 days and get a really bad cut to heal. It's ridiculous.
Huh? Basement. Basement if you want to.
Oh my god, let's see.
What?
Also want to give you guys credit. Like, wearing ear pro in an environment where you get artillery is dropping on you or adjacent to you, and they both have like uncommon English accents. I think this guy is French Canadian. I maintain he's a Kiwi. So like, I get it when they're just like, you know, what?
You want me to come there?
Wait there for a second.
Wow. Imagine just every building has these little nook and cranny shelters. Like we talked about, you can go to the gym, and you should, but combat fitness is its own domain of fitness, no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And this is that micro terrain analysis. Crossing big open fields, you want to bound with cover because it's so dangerous, because in an open field, you're one guy and anyone can see you from hundreds of meters away. In contrast, no one's going to see you through these tree lines and these debris. So that's probably why they're just switching to patrolling. They're called open danger areas. Or just danger areas, I think. Yeah, I also noticed these guys do have a really good read on when artillery is going to be close and worrying and not that close. But yeah, those sound like thermobaric rockets, 100%. Not 100%. It sounds like heavier than artillery. It sounds like it's landing at a very rapid rate. I would guess and say that's the MLRS. Not like the Taliban would ever throw an MLRS at us, you know what I mean? Yeah, just the level of destruction, dude. You saw there was a kid's playground. This used to be a school. Imagine growing up here and seeing this. It's also interesting to me, he's got this combat belt pouch here, more grenades along the side. It's just an interesting rig. No backpack.
On the right.
Yeah, I saw it crossing.
Are you crossing, did you?
No, I saw it when I was crossing.
Ah. Walk inside here. I'll just hold out here.
It's interesting, and it's very appropriate that he blocks out the radio chatter. That's super interesting because you can learn a lot by just hearing call signs or understanding sort of their process for calling for help. And you guys, and it could also be just like, you know, they could be calling in UIAs or KIAs or names that you want to keep private just for privacy's sake. Yep. Again, a twisted ankle, another silly but completely possible reason for you to come off of combat. And another reason why, again, if you're the designated reserve unit, there's an incentive to not do these things. Again, as a platoon leader, I would be reluctant to see my soldiers. I would never in a million years let them do something like this, just two of them going out doing whatever. But I would be reluctant to take on duties, even if I wasn't under specific orders. Because sometimes in the military, the mission is to wait until you're needed, and not doing anything else is essential. Just like it's being on call. Being on call is still a duty. It's what you don't do that makes it work. You don't leave town. You don't turn off your phone. You don't drink. You don't commit to go to a baseball game or whatever. You stay available.
Ooh, that's pretty open.
I love the mirror is intact. Right, casualty collection points. This is where you're going to hold and triage your troops that are wounded or KIA, though almost always you have your KIA somewhere away from the wounded troops because it's so demoralizing to be wounded and be placed next to a KIA. You want it to be relatively open. You want it to be enough that you can bring people there. You can bring their medics who are treating them. And you want it to be secure enough that you can bring a CASEVAC helicopter, in this case, a CASEVAC vehicle, up to the house. It actually requires a little bit of planning to find a good CCP. But this is actually not a bad one. Yeah, it's pretty open.
What you do is I'll get your whole bin, and I want you to face out, looking out to your far left.
Yeah.
And then just follow parts of this.
Gotcha.
Jump on that side, look at the other side.
Gotcha.
If we start seeing dudes running around with stretchers and shit, or carrying guns,
All right, roger that.
Yeah, so he gives them sectors of fire. Dude's just popping a squat. But you notice how their sectors of fire are like this, right? Here's one guy, here's the other, and they're looking at each other crossways like that. Pretty interesting. Yes. Bro, you think that's not tactical? It is 1,000,000% tactical. We once had in our base defense at our forward operating base, we first opened it up when it wasn't anything more than a patrol base with a platoon of soldiers at it. We had a soldier who, there was just this one place in the wall where the contractor hadn't finished it. And there was towers like looking this way and this way, but there was just this narrow gap. We needed another set of eyes to cover. And the only way was to camp them at this gap in the wall. And so we literally got a chair like that one, and we designated the position, the hole in the wall, and someone had to guard the hole in the wall. It was part of our base defense plan. Okay. Okay, I'm not even gonna, I don't want to see the teasers because it shows we're not gonna do it. I'm gonna just get rid of that. Anyway, guys, that's probably going to be it for this video here. Again, the remainder is them just pulling security, but I just don't want to show the clips of the subsequent videos. But this has been a really good insight into how combat has changed and some idea of the difference between these when Ukraine was primarily on its offensive in some of the earlier CivDiv videos and when it's on the defensive